Before there was a studio with his name on the gate, before there were sound stages, private jets, and a media empire that employed thousands, there was a boy who learned very early that home was not a safe place. Tyler Perry was born into poverty, but poverty was not the deepest wound. Violence was. His father was abusive, not quietly, not occasionally. Violence lived in the walls, in the tone of voice, in the silence after shouting. As a child, Tyler learned how to read moods faster than books. He learned when to disappear, when to stay still, when not to breathe too loudly. That kind of childhood does something permanent to you. It fractures your sense of safety. It teaches you that love can hurt and authority can destroy. School offered no escape. Confidence was fragile. Self-worth barely existed. There was no roadmap, no mentor waiting in the wings, no backup plan hidden behind privilege. What Tyler had was pain, raw, unprocessed, unanswered. And for a long time, that pain turned inward. Depression followed him into his teenage years. So did shame. So did the belief that he was broken beyond repair. At one point, the weight became too heavy. He attempted to end his life. He survived, not because everything suddenly felt hopeful, but because something inside him hesitated. That hesitation mattered. Years later, a moment on television changed the direction of his life. He watched Oprah Winfrey speak openly about surviving abuse, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with ownership. For the first time, Tyler saw someone take pain and refuse to hide it. That night, he started writing. Not fiction, not comedy. Confession. Page after page, he poured out memories he had buried, scenes he never wanted to revisit, words he had never spoken aloud. Writing became survival, but survival doesn't pay rent. As an adult, Tyler chased the dream with no safety net. He moved cities. He invested every dollar he had into producing a stage play, a story about forgiveness, faith, and family, inspired by his own scars. The result? Failure, empty seats, unpaid bills, no applause. He tried again, another play, another city, another gamble. Failure again. Money ran out, friends drifted away, optimism thinned. Eventually, Tyler found himself homeless, not metaphorically, literally. He slept in his car, a grown man with scripts in the passenger seat and nothing else to his name. Waking up not knowing where the next meal would come from. Washing up in public restrooms. Rehearsing lines alone because there was no cast left. And still, he kept writing. People told him to quit. Church leaders rejected his work. Theater owners turned him away. Critics dismissed him as unrefined, too emotional, too unsophisticated. But here's the part most people miss. Tyler Perry wasn't trying to impress critics. He was trying to speak to people who had never been spoken to. People like him. People who grew up broken, ashamed, unheard. People who didn't see their pain reflected anywhere. He wasn't building art for approval. He was building connection for survival. And connection, when it finally happens, changes everything. What finally changed Tyler Perry's life didn't come from critics, studios, or industry approval. It came from listening. While the theaters were empty, something else was quietly happening. People who did see his plays started talking to each other. Not online, not through reviews, but face to face. Church basements, community centers, parking lots after shows that barely broke even. They told him the same thing again and again. This is my life. This is my mother. This is what happened in my house. Tyler realized something most creators learn too late. You don't need millions of fans. You need the right ones. So he stopped chasing mainstream stages and went where his audience already lived. Black churches, small southern cities, places the industry ignored because they didn't look profitable on paper. He rented halls instead of theaters, sold tickets himself, loaded props by hand, drove overnight between cities, no agents, no sponsors, no safety. Just him, the story, and the people who recognized themselves in it. And slowly something shifted. Shows started selling out. Not because the production was polished, it wasn't, but because it was honest. The character of Medea was born from this era, loud, flawed, funny, deeply wounded beneath the humor. Medea wasn't meant to be sophisticated. She was meant to be familiar. Critics laughed at her, audiences laughed with her. That difference mattered. Money started coming in, but Tyler didn't upgrade his life. He upgraded his control. He kept ownership. He reinvested everything. He trusted his instincts more than outside opinions. Hollywood noticed, late. Studios offered deals that looked generous on the surface and predatory underneath. Creative control traded for distribution. Ownership traded for exposure. Tyler said no, again, And again and again, people called him arrogant, short-sighted, unprofessional. But he had lived in his car. He had already lost everything once. Fear no longer worked on him. When films finally came, they weren't built for awards. They were built for the same audience that had carried him when no one else would. And those audiences showed up. Box office numbers shocked the industry. Not because the films were critically adored, they weren't, but because they were emotionally understood. Tyler Perry didn't conquer Hollywood. He bypassed it. He built his own distribution, his own production pipeline, his own ecosystem. Eventually, the thing he had been denied his entire life, stability, arrived. Not gently, but decisively. A studio, then the largest black-owned studio in American history, on land once used as a Confederate base. That detail is not symbolic by accident. It's history answering itself. But even at the peak, Tyler didn't romanticize success. He spoke openly about the cost, the loneliness, the exhaustion, the way childhood trauma never fully disappears. It just learns to speak in quieter voices. His empire was not built from confidence. It was built from survival. From a man who learned early that pain doesn't disappear when ignored, it compounds. So he turned it into stories, turned stories into community, turned community into power. And the boy who once hid from violence became a man who built something so large it could no longer be dismissed. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. When the world finally started calling Tyler Perry a success, he didn't celebrate the way people expected. There was no victory lap, no sense of arrival, because when you grow up inside chaos, calm can feel unfamiliar, even suspicious. Success didn't erase his past, it amplified it. Suddenly, the same industry that once ignored him wanted proximity. Executives praised his vision. Media outlets framed his story as inspirational. But Tyler had learned something crucial during the years no one was watching. Applause is unstable. Ownership is not. So while others chased validation, he focused on infrastructure. He studied distribution, contracts, tax structures, land. Not because he loved business, but because he never wanted to be powerless again. Every deal was filtered through one question. Does this put me back in a position where someone else can decide my future? If the answer was yes, the deal died. This wasn't stubbornness, it was memory. He remembered sleeping in his car. He remembered being told his voice wasn't valuable. He remembered being laughed out of rooms he wasn't even allowed to enter fully. Those memories became his risk management system. When he built Tyler Perry Studios, it wasn't just about film, it was about sovereignty. A place where stories didn't need permission, where hiring didn't depend on pedigree, where people who had been overlooked could finally work without apology. The irony is that critics never fully came around. Awards remained rare, reviews stayed divided. But something more powerful happened. Audience loyalty hardened. Millions of people saw their lives reflected without shame. Single mothers, families fractured by addiction, men taught to hide pain until it turned poisonous. Tyler didn't fix their lives. He acknowledged them. And acknowledgement, for people who have been invisible, is not entertainment. It's relief. Behind the scenes, though, the work took a toll. Long hours, isolation, the pressure of carrying not just a brand, but a community's expectations. Tyler spoke openly about burnout, about depression returning in new forms, about the danger of turning pain into productivity without rest. Because pain, even when profitable, still costs something. What makes his story different isn't the scale of success, it's the direction of transformation. Most people try to escape their wounds. Tyler studied his. He asked what they taught him about power, silence, and survival. Then he built systems that protected others from the same damage. That's the part no headline captures. This was never just about money. It was about control over narrative. Who gets to speak? Who gets to fail publicly and still continue? Who gets to build something lasting without asking for approval? Tyler Perry didn't become powerful by forgetting his pain. He became powerful by refusing to let it be wasted. And that's why his empire doesn't feel shiny. It feels grounded, heavy with memory, built from scars that were finally allowed to mean something. There comes a moment, usually after the noise fades, when a person has to ask themselves a difficult question. Was all of this worth it? For Tyler Perry, that question didn't come at the peak. It came in quiet moments, alone, away from cameras, when the work was done and the mind had room to wander. Because building an empire doesn't automatically heal the child who was hurt. Success can build walls, it can buy safety, it can silence doubters, but it cannot rewrite memory. Tyler eventually understood something that took him decades to accept. The goal was never to erase the pain. The goal was to give it purpose without letting it define him. He began to talk less about proving himself and more about protecting his peace, slowing down, delegating, choosing projects with intention rather than obligation. He invested not just in businesses, but in people, education, housing, jobs for those who had been told they were disposable. Because once you know what it feels like to be invisible, you don't forget. You notice who gets overlooked. You recognize fear disguised as toughness. You see potential buried under shame. Tyler Perry's legacy isn't a studio, it's a permission slip. Permission to tell stories that aren't polished. Permission to succeed without institutional blessing. Permission to turn survival into structure. He proved something quietly radical. You don't have to wait for the world to understand you before you start building. You don't have to be healed to be useful. You don't have to be chosen to choose yourself. The man who once slept in his car built a place where thousands could stand, not because he forgot where he came from, but because he never did. And that's the real transformation. Pain didn't disappear. It evolved. It stopped being a wound and became a foundation.